So in this video, I'm going to cover something that Grandmaster Carron used to always talk about, and is a kind of an integral part of warrior flow, and that is developing purposeful habits. Now, when we're talking about purposeful habits, we're talking about those continuing actions that they become so habitual that you don't have to think about them. If you look at the sport of boxing, for example, where, boxers always learn to keep their hands in a certain position so that as they're moving, no matter what, their hands are always somewhere relatively around their face to protect their head. And the reason for that is obvious. You're wearing the gloves, and because the rules in boxing say they have to strike within a certain parameter, so they place their hands in the areas that they know a person's got to get to in order to hurt them. Whether it's keeping their elbows down so they're protecting their ribs, keeping their hands up somewhere around their face to protect their face. It makes a lot of sense. But it's not just that boxers develop. They also develop the ability to bob and weave, to duck, and all these other skills where they practice them to the point where it's not something they have to think about, because by the time you thought about it in a real confrontation or in a real match, you're already probably punched in the face. So in this video, I'm just going to cover some of the things that we teach in Warrior Flow, and then I'm going to build on it in subsequent videos of showing how this stuff actually applies when you're dealing with a person. But one of the main things that I want to show is just something very fundamental. So I generally try to get people, especially in the beginning, until they learn how to really move better, of keeping their hands up relatively somewhere around where they can protect their head. People always ask me all the time, where should my hands be? And I always tell them your hands really need to be where you need them to be to protect yourself. And the reason I give them kind of that, that kind of yin-yangy kind of answer is because of the fact that in a real fight, which is not a boxing match, you don't know what you have to do with your hands until you have to do it. So you want to have these purposeful habits that if all else fails, you always can default to placing your hands in a certain position. So I like to get people, and I'll just give an example of a purposeful habit of bringing their hands up and learning how to turn their body to kind of protect themselves, but also to get their body a little bit offline. And I'll just walk through this slowly of how you could practice this on your own. And you'll find that just by practicing even a little bit, it's not a hard skill to develop, but it's something that you'll be able to do very shortly. But before I go on, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, and give a like to the channel, because it really helps grow the channel, because we're really trying to build this community. So one of the things I do, going back to this, is have a person stand kind of square. And the reason I have them stand kind of square is I'm just trying to get across an idea or a concept to get them thinking about how they can get their body out of the way and how they can protect themselves. Then I have them bring their hands up. Once they bring their hands up, one of the things I like to get them to do is first feel themselves shifting back and forth. It's kind of like when I have people rolling the ball. And the purpose of rolling the ball is not because you're going to fight like this. No, it's just training you how to move back and forth in a coordinated manner with both your hands as you're moving the hips and the shoulders in sync with each other. So I get them shifting back and forth, feeling themselves first, shifting their weight back and forth, feeling that smooth transition from one root point to the next. Just like that. And this is just something you can practice as we go along. It's not a hard thing to do. The next thing I do is I start getting them, as they're shifting, to kind of rotating slightly as they shift. And the reason I want them rotating slightly as they shift is also feeling themselves shift and rotate the hips and shoulders in sync with each other, where the movement should be relatively congruent. It doesn't have to be perfect. But the idea is, by shifting back and forth, you're able to now start feeling yourself also get out of the way and turn. The next thing I have them do, and again, I'll go slow so you can practice this and I'll explain it further, is I start having them turn first and getting into the habit as they slightly turn their hips and shoulders together. And then you'll notice as I'm turning right here where my elbow is, say this is where my center is, I'm actually now kind of blading myself a little, even though my shoulders are square. Whereas if I'm having a strike thrown at me, it kind of goes on this angle. So this is kind of the angle where I'm kind of redirecting and changing things. In other words, as I'm turning, I'm now using the movement of my body to cut things off. Even if it's up around my face, where I can use the movement of my body to cut things off. From there, then as I get them turning, I get them to get a little freer and start rotating the hands a little more and rotating the shoulders a little more. Notice what I'm doing now with my elbows, where I'm using my elbows to kind of ward things off or knock things out of the way. I'm not opposed to hitting people with the elbows. One thing we don't do in warrior flows, we really don't block. And the reason is because blocking implies that not only do I know where the strike is coming, but I have the ability to stop it. I ain't trying to stop it. I'm going to hit people. So as I'm turning and doing this motion and getting used to this motion, and then I like to also start getting the elbows where I'm kind of bringing them up and using the elbows a little freer. The whole point is to habituate that kind of movement, that kind of experience, so that if I'm in a situation, I'm trying to protect myself, even if my hands are open, I can do these sudden movements to protect myself for that microsecond I need to be able to redirect something. This is not a hard skill, but you got to practice it. Grandmaster Perkins, when he used to do this, and for those who've seen him do this a million times, sometimes he would even touch or bring his hand up close to his face, protecting his throat, and he would just move his body. Sometimes he would even shift his body, almost like how a boxer bobs and weaves, kind of like, in the Down and Dirty course where I show the custom model bob and weave drill with the medicine ball. So he would do these kind of movements to protect not only his center and protect his throat, but also he would bring his hand up also and bring his elbows up to protect his head as he would enter. But you'll notice, no matter what I do with my arms, no matter what I do with my shoulders, bringing my shoulders up, the movement is off of this basic movement. In Warrior Flow, we try to make sure that everything we do is something not only that the average person can do, and I want to point that the average person can do, but it's based off of how humans actually move and how we actually function within time and space. One of the biggest problems in a lot of systems is that they see a person who's at the highest level doing something and say, that's what I want to do. And I'm all about that, believe me. If I could do flying kicks and kick people in the head and spinning back kicks, I'm all about it. The problem is not only are a lot of those skills not practical in a real fight, but they're very hard to do. And let's face it, there's something to be said for talent, and some people have that ability to do that. If you've got the ability to do it, hey, God bless you. If you don't have the ability to do it, that's going to be a problem for you. So we always focus on things that the average person can do, because if there are things that the average person can do, then they transcend every type of body type. And so that if you got more talent, hey, guess what? It's just going to be easier for you to do the same things, but they are things that always work. So as I'm kind of doing this kind of thing like boxers do, where I'm moving back and forth, I'm protecting myself. Grandmaster Perkins, like I said, he would use his hands, be a little freer. Now, Grandmaster Carron, he would actually have some distance, but he would be doing the same thing where he would actually turn his body. And you can see what I'm doing with my elbow here, where my elbow is kind of coming down. You see this a lot in like Wing Chun and Bagua, where they'll have these kind of turns. And a lot of other systems have, outward middle block, that kind of thing. And it's a effective thing. The problem is, if you set it up where it's like this rigid structured thing, it's very hard to do under duress. But if it becomes something that's kind of like a habit, or a purposeful habit, as Grandmaster Carron used to always say, then it's just something you can do. So you can see what I'm doing here. Notice, even though my arm is a little extended, as I'm turning, my body is still doing the same thing. I'm just turning, and I'm just kind of using this to cut angles off. I can even go the other direction. One of the last points I want to make of this is that it's very hard if you see this being done from the side. And that's because the angle doesn't really facilitate your ability to see what's really going on. It just looks like somebody's turning and somehow the other person's missing. So that's why I'm doing this, where I'm standing in front. When I do a demonstration with a person, you'll see this in subsequent videos, how it actually works. One of the things too, though, that Grandmaster Perkins and Grandmaster Carron used to always do, and they would do it right in front of people. They not only turn their body, but sometimes they would just move the body where the hand would stay relatively in the same place, or the arm, and they would just do stuff like this. Or they would be like this. Sometimes John would actually turn and pocket his body, but his hands would stay relatively in the same place, because that's where he would catch people's arms and trap them. Grandmaster Carron, forget it. He would catch you out here, and he would turn his body and catch your arm, and that's when he starts trying to pull your arm out of socket or trying to, knock your head off your body. The point is, no matter what technique they tried to do, and I guess that's the point I'm trying to get across, it always started in here with this rotation in here with the shoulders and also with the hips working in sync with each other. So now, as a follow-up to the previous section, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show from the feet all the way up how you can practice this. I'm not going to get into any long-winded explanations. I just want you to watch this so that you can see how I kind of go about practicing this on my own. I kind of stand with my feet relatively shoulder width apart. I don't get crazy about it. My knees slightly bent, and I bring my hands up. And all I do is first feel myself going back and forth, just to get the feel. Then I start feeling myself kind of turning the hips, kind of getting my body out of the way, keeping my hands up. And then I just kind of move. And I'm just trying to get this feel, rolling my shoulders, feeling this kind of thing. And I'm trying to get this fluid feel. Also, from my feet all the way up through my hips and shoulders, every part of my body is working with this. So I'm exaggerating what I'm doing here, but I'm actually pushing off the ground with my feet as I'm shifting, because that's what also allows me to suddenly drop and get out of the way by getting that push and that drop, a little push here to drop into the other leg as I'm protecting myself. So as you can see, all the way from my feet, all the way up through my shoulders, and even as I'm moving my arms, it all starts from the bottom and it works all the way up through. It's not rocket science, but it's one of those exercises I found that you got to practice it. Just like you practice rolling the ball to help develop your coordination, you got to practice it. Eventually you want to get to the point where you actually start moving at times where you kind of leave your hands in a certain position to help you develop the ability to be able to get out of the way without moving more than what is necessary. The reason you want to be able to do that is because it's not always feasible, depending on how much space you have, to always think you can just get these big turns or that you can move your hand more than you need to. Sometimes you just need just enough just to get out of the way to be able to end it with someone. So you want to practice these things and you want to fool around with it, see how it feels within your body. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the better you get at it, until, like I said, at a certain point, it's just something you can do, which is what you're looking for.